Hi, I'm Andy, and this is my lesson on creating strings in Java. In this lesson, I'll introduce you to classes and objects, discuss exactly what a string is, and show you how to create strings in your programs. Let's get started. In previous lessons, I discussed some primitive data types, specifically int, double, and boolean. Turns out there's another category of data types in Java. These are called classes. Classes are a more complex data type. To understand classes, it helps to explore a specific example of a class. The first class I'll cover in my lessons is probably the most important one. It's called string. We use strings to store text in our programs. As you can see here, a string is a series of characters, where each character can be a letter, a number, a symbol, or even a space. This particular string contains 5 characters. Okay, let's see how we can create strings in our programs. Just like with primitives, we start our line of code with the data type of the thing we're about to make. In this case, that's string. We then put the name of our variable. I'll call this string I'm about to make animal type. We then put the assignment operator, the equal sign. After that, we type new, followed by the data type again, followed by the text we want to store in the string, surrounded by double quotes. Just like that. This line of code right here is extremely important to fully understand, so let's break it down further. Remember, to analyze a line of code like this, it helps to evaluate the thing on the right of the assignment operator first. This code here creates the new string in memory, which I picture as a box in which data is stored. A specific instance of the string class is called a string object. Notice the string object contains all the important data for this string. Please note the difference between class and object. The class is the type of thing we made. In this case, the class is string. The object is the actual created thing. This is the object in this case. New is the keyword that creates a new object in memory, no matter what class you're dealing with. This part of the line of code creates animal type as a variable somewhere else in memory. Now you may think that the assignment operator stores this object with all its data in the variable animal type, but that's not how this works. Instead, animal type holds information that helps Java find the object in memory. For simplicity, you can imagine this information to be the object's address in memory. Let me show you what I mean by that. Every object stored in memory on your computer has a specific memory address. For purposes of this example, I'll make up a memory address numbering scheme. Let's pretend this string object is stored at address 101. After an object is created, its address is returned, meaning it is this address that the assignment operator ends up storing in the variable animal type. A variable which holds the address to an object is called a reference variable, or just reference for short. So we can say that animal type is a reference to our string object. As you'll see later, we access the data stored in objects through their references. Often we show that a variable is a reference to an object by drawing arrows like this. Whenever you see a picture like this, you should interpret it to mean that the variable contains the memory address of the referenced object. Before we leave this analysis, let me just emphasize to you how important it is to fully understand this process. Exactly how objects and their references are stored in memory. Next, let me show you a shortcut way of creating a string object, and also how to print out the text stored in a string object. I'll start by making another string, this one called animal name, but instead of using the word new, I'll just put the text in double quotes. There are some subtle differences between these two ways to create strings, but as a new programmer, just think of these two lines of code as doing the exact same thing. They're both creating string objects in memory and storing addresses to those objects in the two variables. Now we can print out the text for those objects by using print line statements containing our references to those string objects. As a final challenge, look at this code and see if you can answer two questions. What will it print out? And how many string objects does this program create? So the answer to the first question is pretty simple. We're printing the text associated with S1, S2, and S3 one at a time. The answer to the second question may surprise you. The correct answer is 2. There are only 2 string objects in this program. To see why, remember that to evaluate lines of code like these, we need to draw pictures with boxes and arrows. Let's do that. When this line of code executes, the string object is created and its address is stored in S1. Again, I'll just make up an address numbering scheme just for purposes of this analysis. When this line of code executes, another string object is created and its address is stored in S2. Now this line of code executes. Notice there's no new keyword or double quotes on the right side, so we are not creating an object here. Instead, the assignment operator is simply taking the value on the right, the address to an existing string object, and storing it into the variable on the left, S3. To clearly show which object each variable references, I'll replace these made-up addresses with arrows, like this. So at the end of these 3 lines of code, we have 2 string objects and 3 references to those objects. Again, understanding this picture of how objects and references to those objects are stored in memory is incredibly important. Make sure you keep this picture in mind whenever analyzing code involving objects. And that wraps up this lesson on creating strings in Java. I'm Andy. Thanks for watching and coding with me today.